Although they did start working with the Beals revolver in the year of 1856, it would not be the same as what you think of the Remington New Model Army today.
And if you're like me, you're into the history stuff, the books, you like the guns are worth their weight in gold. Because the gun, it's fun to shoot, it's fun to point with, but without the story there, if you're a history person like I am, without the story, it really doesn't mean all that much.
The Ruger Security 9.
Can I redraw?
You already looked?
No.
You sure
Alright.
you did?
Now on 3.
Another pro, at least a pro to me, is these guns are kind of a project. I like to look at them as I'm getting an advanced kit build in the mail whenever I get one. So it's a project that you can go down the road and you can either leave it as
Most people believe that the Walker was Colt's first extent to a very, very large pistol, but it wasn't. This was. This is Colt's 1839 patent firearms revolving carbine pistol. It is massive.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Reload Show. We have a little bit different thing going on today, mostly because Snapper decided to reject us just because it was him and his wife's 15th wedding anniversary. Can you believe that? Duke is at a loss for words.
Yeah, priorities.
Yep. He just didn't think that we were that important, I guess. So my idea was we haven't actually had a show that was just Duke, Ethan, and Caleb and I ever since the very first one. That was just coming up on 4 years ago in 2020, I believe. And it was all working out, but I don't know what happened to Ethan. I sent him the link, and then I never heard nothing else back. So maybe he'll pop in here pretty soon. So anyway, we got Caleb down here on the bottom, and you all know Duke from Duke Fraser Productions on the right. We are still streaming across 3 channels. We have 50 people in right now, and if you guys are ready, we'll go through some comments. Louisiana Gray said, looking forward to the show, fellas. West Alabama Sports and Outdoors says we are iced in here in the Northwest Alabama. Oh, you and Plowboy both must be iced in then. That's sad. Thinking I have rewatched all of Duke's and 11 Bang Bangs videos. Well, you're doing pretty good because there's 785 11 Bang Bang videos as of right now. That's a real snowhead. Okay, German. I'm just gonna say German there. I don't speak German. Said, hey,
Beltran Ardilla.
Buenos Los Videos. Read that, Duke. You can get up on your Spanish.
Sí, están buenos los videos. He's saying good videos.
Oh, thank you. France is in, and he says, Fran says, we'll try to remember. Texan 1836 says, what's cracking, fellas? Kent said, good evening, everyone. Diane Houston's in. Says, good evening, all. Gunsmith 4570, good evening, all. Stephen M. Mann said, the Mountain Man is in to see what the subject may be. No real subject, just a we'll start doing subjects. Yes. We'll start doing subjects again in a couple weeks. I'm going to start getting some guests too and everything. I just haven't had a chance to line everything out. Everything's been crazy. Vaquero Joel said, good evening, everyone. Turkey Creek said, checking in for a few minutes. Hi. Rock McLaughlin said, Hello, all. Pistols look like kit I have in a bench drawer waiting for warmer temperatures to start. Louisiana Gray said good evening to all. Jeremy P. said finally warmed up enough to break the 8 inches of ice from the sides of the mule stock tank. Yeah, I've been staying on it, getting about 2 inches every morning, but breaker and shoveler out, so hopefully don't get too much. Saboteur's in. Man, he must really be on that shift change working out for him because he's here early.
Yeah.
Doug Duke says, good evening, all. IWS Bull 1 said, howdy, all. Hardy said, hello, you silly humans. France with the single action Smith & Wesson, among other pocket revolvers, says, howdy. Cool Hand said, bad on snapper. Yep. Louisiana Gray said, happy 15th anniversary. Soylent Greens in says, hi. Louisiana Gray said, well, I'm glad Caleb could take his place. Yeah, number one Big Bears in. Hello to everybody. iPod Walker, what's happening, fellas? Kodak Tackman said, evening, fellas. It's cold down here in the southeast nowadays. I think it's cold everywhere. What's your temperatures, dude?
Today we actually hit about 40.
We did too. It's probably about the same.
So, but yesterday I think we got a high of 9. Wind chill was like negative 20 something. Which, I mean, that's nothing compared to what I was up in South Dakota, but it's still not pleasant.
Nope. And every day something on that ranch has been broke down every day that it's cold. U-joints get mud in them, freeze up, go out. I had a sprocket that kept falling off, and finally on Saturday, Caleb was going by. I said, grab that welding hood and weld that dude in place, and it ain't came off since.
Surprised it stuck. I couldn't even see what I was welding.
It was in a 40-mile-an-hour, 20 below zero wind out in the middle of the dirt.
Don't you just love that though? When you run a perfect bead, it's the absolute perfect bead, and it's 2 inches off.
That far off your line?
Yeah, that was the first time.
I was missing my personal helmet at that moment.
That's why I went to that auto adjust helmet. Then I could see what I was doing.
Yeah. The one we had, you couldn't tilt it. You had to hold it with one hand and weld with the other.
We got her. He got a bead on there where she ain't coming off no more. That's all I care about. Yeah, iPod Walker said 11 bang bang. It's freezing here. It's 59 Fahrenheit. That's freezing, or is that just you mean to put the negative on there, iPod?
If that's supposed to have a negative, okay. If that ain't got a negative, I'm gonna reach this computer.
Diane Houston said, how can I buy an 11 bang bang shirt? Well, we have a few of them, and the thing of it is we got to get them made if we're going to sell them, and we've talked about it several times, and a lot of people have asked, and it's just one of those things got to find time to do. If we decide to start selling merch, we got to stick to it or do a t-shirt run, but I haven't figured out exactly how we would do that yet.
There's a couple ways I looked into.
How'd you have it do?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, Fraser's Raiders with the YouTube logo.
Yep, and it got taken. I got told I couldn't do it.
Oh.
But
I was going to say, one of these days, I'm just going to have Angelica make you a one-off Fraser's Raiders with the YouTube logo t-shirt. So you finally had it.
But if you want the cheapest option to have an 11 bang bang shirt, go buy you a white t-shirt at Walmart, take a black Sharpie and write at 11 bang bang.
I always get comments on Caleb's hat that he's wearing right now, but that was a one-off that somebody made him for a Christmas present, I think, or a birthday present.
Yeah, I asked for one of them.
It was Christmas last year.
Yeah. We're not really set up to do it. Let's see. Yeah, Doug Duke said 11 bang bang hat. Man, yeah, we got to do it. It's just a matter of finding somebody that knows how to do it and actually getting a run of them made. Hardy said Midwesterner checking in here. Been in the negatives last few days. Would love to trade weather with iPod Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think we all would.
Jeremy Gunslinger's in. Says hello everyone. I'm off and y'all are live.
It's not much fun putting those pipes together when you got to heat them up with a torch so you can get the thread started.
That's no joke. I'll be glad when the ground thaws a little bit, so I'm not driving that 4430 over constant ruts that are frozen.
But I hate when your hands get wet, and as soon as you touch something metal, it wants to stick.
The worst I saw was when I was up there in South Dakota and down there in the shop, the water line coming into the shop froze, the sewer line going out of the shop froze, and the drain pipe for in the middle of the shop floor, so when all the snow and stuff on the tractors melted, it froze up. So every morning I have to go in there with a 5-gallon bucket and empty that drain. And then if you had to use a bathroom, you just used it up at the ranch house because you couldn't flush the one in the shop. And
Yeah, I was about to say this.
down for coffee.
The sewer pipe freezing, that wouldn't hurt you much if the water's already froze.
That's true. But what we was doing before the sewer pipe froze up was we'd haul down a big jug of water and fill the bowl of the toilet so that, we could use the toilet and didn't have to go up to the house. But
Hey, was it still line coming in, or was it all never the night?
it was big line. I don't know how big a line, but yeah, it just all froze up because the hydrant out back froze up. That's what we were doing. We was using the hydrant out behind the shop because it had water, and then it froze up.
Yeah, if it was all steel, you could have took your welder and put 2 leads on her and kick her on for a little bit. I'll thaw it out.
Yeah, we didn't know that was a very long water line. We don't know where it froze at.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been so cold here. My goal last week was I'm going to get out there and make a Northwest trade gun video, even though Ethan's not here to do it myself. And it's like every day after being out there for 8-10 hours in a negative 20 wind, when you come inside, you're like, well, there just ain't no need to go back out there. We're doing inside videos this week. Sit down and get warm and fall asleep.
Yeah.
So there was a couple questions here. Gray Pilgrim said howdy. Let's see. Hardy said, I vote we all storm iPod Walker's place and break out the shorts and suntan lotion. Okay. Let's see. Smoke said, real country dudes on YouTube. This is the first. Jeremy Gunslinger said, how about coffee mugs? They have a machine. You can make your own logo on them. Yeah, I have one, but it's one of those things that somebody made for me. I don't have a machine. Gray Pilgrim said it was frozen stiff for 4 days. Today was the thaw, and that was when the problems started.
Yeah.
What we saw was that was where the problem started. Okay, so Caleb, for you, Jeremy P wants to know, what loads do you like best in your 1917? I assume he means your revolver.
Well, yeah. Whatever you're about to make me with the new bullets we got.
230 grain truncated cone with 5.3 grains of green dot behind it. It's not the hottest you can get, but it's a nice shooting round. Powder coated.
Yeah.
Caleb likes them pretty blue bullets.
Yeah. I really like the ones I don't have to load.
Should try powder coated in a 50-70 and see how they do.
That's a good question. We're waiting on Jake because he's told me before, an exact quote was it was an unmitigated disaster. And then he told me he might want to try it again a different way. So I don't know. What were you saying, Caleb?
I was about to say, didn't he say not to use black powder with powder coating?
Well, he also makes smokeless 50-70. He's done a couple videos on smokeless 50-70 in a trapdoor.
Yeah, your rabbit load.
Big BB gun or big 22.
Big BB gun. 50 caliber BB gun.
Oh. Caleb and I actually painted last night. It was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, Garrett's wife told us we didn't know how to do it.
We didn't care. We did it anyway.
Yeah.
We are setting up a whole new side of the studio for trapdoors. We got the wall painted. We got the lighting set up. Hopefully it's going to look less yellow.
Yeah, my whole table is kind of covered at the moment.
Okay, Gray Pilgrim said 1917 Colt or Smith & Wesson. I have a Smith & Wesson.
Ours is a Colt. We're going to get a Smith & Wesson someday, though. We just haven't yet.
Let's see. One IWS. I think it's IWS Bull. One said Powder Coat is awesome. Texas 1836 said, is Old Char still Ethan's favorite, or is he now leaning towards the 1777? No, I don't think he'll ever replace that Charleville. He's done some pretty cool stuff with it here lately. Basically, he rebuilt the whole thing into a rifle shop rifle, except the barrel. And he's pretty proud of that. You'll be seeing it soon as he'll be back in the 1st of March, and he'll be back doing some videos. Hardy said, have you noticed quite a few guns from the usual Italian suspects haven't been in stock anywhere for a few years, been waiting on a 61 Springfield? And it seems like they've been a soft discontinued. A 61 Springfield or a 61 Colt? Are you talking about a 61 Springfield muzzleloader? Yeah, those are trust me, 61 Springfield muzzleloaders are kind of unobtainium right now.
Well, we was just looking at that. I thought I said Dixie Gunworks had those in.
I was looking
We
for
were
originals.
looking at that the other night.
Yeah, for $1,500 or something like that.
No, they had. Well, yeah, they were close to that. All right, I'm gonna look again here.
You go ahead.
You
and
could
look
get
at it.
original for that almost.
I'll tell you
Well,
what, the Italian stuff has slowed down since Corona, and the stuff that is coming in, I haven't had luck with anything for quite a while from the Italian makers.
Okay,
Birdies that are bad, Piettas that are junk, not working well. It's just
okay.
been
There's
all around bad.
a smooth bore. Let's see, it's probably out of stock. Out of stock.
Yeah, it'd have to be rifled.
There's a Springfield musket, and it is out of stock.
Here's a question here. Did you see someone on Gunbroker bought 50 pieces of 50-70 brass for $360? Kobo 49 did a video on what calibers brass is in short supply currently. Yeah, I was in the middle of all that war back then. There was a day when I was willing to pay $400 for 50 pieces of brass just because I needed it. And we didn't wind up doing that, but we did wind up paying like $150 for 27. It was so bad that Jake from Everything Black Powder was actually 50-70 brass was going from $7 to $15 a piece, and Jake found 50-90 brass for $4 a piece. And so he just started buying 50-90 and cutting it down. Now we actually bought, I'd buy like 3 pieces at a time if I could find it. People were selling it for that. Right now, I'm on the hunt for something. I'm not on the hunt. I'm not going to say where, when, what, why, because somebody will go out there and outbid me. But I've got some money on 25 pieces right now. So, yeah, the 50-70 is probably one of the most rare pieces of center fire brass I have ever seen as far as modern stuff goes. Starline could crank it up. They've been backordered
And that's
for
why
3 years. Go ahead.
And that's what's so bad about the Spencer. We felt bad about having to cut some down to make bullets for it.
Yeah, everybody's like, cut 50-70 down to make Spencer brass. And we're like, are you kidding me?
I think Starline's supposed to start 50-70 this year. Last I talked with them.
Yeah, they said that last year when I talked to him too, literally a year ago. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
There is one 1861 Springfield rifle musket available on Dixie Gunworks for $14.75.
You get an original in pretty good condition for $12 if you can find it.
Getting pretty close to original there.
Yeah. James White says, what happens when you run out of wall behind you? Do you build on the house? No, I just make Caleb go buy another one. Actually, I have empty slots because all the trapdoors are over in the other studio, like set up and prepared for filming. So it's like I'm almost empty over here. I got like 5 on that rack back there. Okay. iPod Walker said 11 Bang Bang. What's the status on the pattern 1776 build? Caleb would know more about that than me. I haven't actually seen it. Caleb.
He had it pretty much together. It's pretty much together right now that I seen. He just got to finish doing a little woodwork and put the barrel bands on.
Yep. I got to finish the Brunswick, or at least start it while he's gone, so it'll have a step up. Hardy said, yeah, 61 muzzleloader at any price. Also want an 1874 Sharps infantry rifle. They seem like they haven't been made for a while, too.
Yeah, they're out of stock. I think the carbines are in stock. Find out right
You know, would love a 5070 carbine Sharps.
Well, here's a paper cutter Sharps and $1,750.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, I remember when they was about 12.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't very long ago.
Nah,
Remember,
what-
Caleb, you remember when you were all upset that you had to give $800 for an M1 Garand? Caleb, can you hear us? He's gone. Maybe
Just
he'll be
open the
back
door
in a
and
minute.
yell at him.
I'd let him in on this camera, but I'm running on wired headphones, so that doesn't work very good.
Well, you just have
Great
to get
Pope.
close together.
Yeah. Greg Pilgrim said, I prefer Army San Marco, but if I find them, they are all well used. Yeah, and there's just no parts for it. I have one sitting right over there that needs parts that I can't find parts for anywhere. Fran said, question about what is left of the exploded India musket. Without grabbing the gun, because that'll get us in trouble. It's right here. Actually right above my head. And I'm working on piecing all the little splinters back together like a jigsaw puzzle. They're actually all in a little Ziploc bag up there. Glue it together, wrap it with rawhide, and make a canoe gun out of it. I want to send Duke the end of the barrel and the butt plate so he can make hide scrapers out of them.
Yeah. And then I got to help him fix up and make that one look good.
Rawhide. Okay.
I think what you ought to do is I found this one of a musket that was converted, and they took one of them triangular blades from a Gunstock War Club, and they put that in the stock. You ought to put that on there too.
Well, here's my main issue. I know I can fix it. I've got it pretty well lined up, but when I go to wrap it with rawhide, when the break goes right through the lock channel, so I've got to roll up over the outside of the lock, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. But, I mean,
Yeah.
I can get it together. I just got to actually do it. My tight bond glue's over at Ethan's.
No, yeah, that's perfect. That'll work.
Oh. Let's see. Gray Pilgrim said for 5070, yikes, yeah, 5070's unobtainium. I mean, right now I got my eye on $20 or 20 pieces, not $20. I promise you that. But I'd like to have at least 75. I got 50. We got 50. I'd like to have at least 75 to do the series with. Ethan was out there shooting the Cabin Fever Challenge with a 66 the other day, and I was like, every piece that was going on the ground, I was like, middle note, middle note, middle note. We lost one piece, and we hunted, and we hunted, and we hunted, and I could not find that piece of brass. Finally went home and said, it'll turn up. So we get home, and Ethan kicks the rifle open. Oh, I forgot to eject it. We found her. Oh.
I never heard that part of the story.
Nope, we found it. And there's one at my house, and there's one at your house. So I know where they're all at. Jeremy Gunslinger said, I know the feelings of the repos. Have to fix my cylinder on my Remington New Navy. Yeah, they're having issues. Desert Rat said, I have a Pedersoli 1861 Springfield 3,000 4-wing musket caps. Yeah, I got 2,000 over here behind me. I wanted to get one for the series, but it just wouldn't panning out, and it's like I can't wait any longer. By Land of Sea said, howdy, gents. Sorry for my absence. He's freezing in Boise. Oh, I bet you are. I bet it's cold up there.
Boise, Idaho, or Boise, Oklahoma?
That's Boise City, Oklahoma.
True.
All right. Carol Joel says 2 questions for you, gentlemen. Duke, what book was that you were showing pictures of holsters from in your last Tales of the Trail? And what are your all opinions on the Spencer?
The book was Packing Iron.
Opinions on the Spencer?
One of the best rifles. Better than the Henry in a lot of regards. But unfortunately, the government didn't want to buy them anymore because they went to this deadgum single shot trapdoor carbine. And so they became obsolete.
So they didn't want to. I wonder if I've often wondered what it would have required. Well, first of all, the licensing was up in the air with that. And there was a bunch of licensings up in the air with the Spencers in the 1870s. But I've often wondered just how difficult it would have been to convert that to center fire. That would have made a world of difference for them.
It would have been hard. Wouldn't have been hard at all.
The only other thing is they would have had to have created, because for the trapdoor carbine and the trapdoor rifle, the big selling point is same piece of brass, same primer, same bullet, just a little less in a piece of cardboard, a little less primer or a little less powder in the carbine. So that would have been against it. But man, I feel like they could have really upgraded that thing.
But the thing of it is, it's like I've handled, reproduction carbine for a cavalry gun. That was probably one of the best because with all that weight in the back, being as it's loaded in the back with ammo and virtually little weight in the front, perfect if you need to shoot one-handed. I sat there one day and I was holding that thing with one hand to the shoulder, looking down the sights, and I just kind of started bouncing a little bit. I'm like, you know what? That's one of the few guns where you could actually hold like that. And I tried it with the trapdoor carbine. You can't do it one-handed.
No. And it often makes me wonder, though, how those would have rode on the sling. If it would have been up.
If you didn't put them in the boot, no. They're gonna want to flop over and shove the barrel up your nose.
So you only hook them to the sling when you go into combat action, or is that the deal?
No, so the carbine goes onto the sling. And then when you get ready to mount the horse, you throw that sling up over your shoulder, get on the horse, you drop it down, and then you slide that carbine into the boot. The whole idea of the sling is so that that carbine does not come flying off your person while you're mounted.
Yep. I will say one thing, though, for that trapdoor. It shoots that carbine. It shoots long range with the right load to the sights. I mean, it's an excellent shooter. I will say that for it. Jeremy P said, not that it's hard to find, but you can make 50-70 from 348 Winchester center fire. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the ones that's more rare than 50-70. Vaquero Joel said, carbines on the frontier. What were the issues and what was it good at?
Number one issue, no cleaning rod.
Until 1877, then they got it.
That's true for all the carbines. Sharps.
Yeah.
Spencer, sorry, I'm trying to eat my supper at the same time as I'm talking. So yeah, all the carbines, they didn't have a cleaning rod. That's probably the biggest disadvantage.
They are a little easier to shoot the long rifles. I know some people say sight radius doesn't make a bit of difference. Well, maybe it doesn't for you, but it does for me. The longer rifles are easier to shoot at distance for me, steadier.
I had one guy out there at Fort Laramie tell me, well, the rifle's better because you can gauge at longer range. And I'm sitting there, it's like the cavalry are not marksmen. That's not the purpose.
No.
The cavalry are to ride in and raise hell.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. The one thing I would say, too, is it's interesting because civilians, like, take, for instance, Bill Cody, he rode all over the country with a full-length 3-band 66 on his saddle.
Yep.
But that's riding it out in the front, not necessarily, the best.
Yeah, because all those old-fashioned guys, they would ride with the gun across the pommel on their lap, basically. So it was right there, and that goes clear back in the mountain man days. But that way, it's always within grasp. Because if you put it in the scabbard, and a lot of guys later on did, but put it in the scabbard and get off your horse. And if your horse takes off, well, there goes your gun.
Yep, that's bad. You seen those Hawkins or those a lot of reproductions that have the brass set up where it's going to ride on the, what do they call that? Where the brass is on the stock where it's going to rub on the saddle where it rides across the bow.
Yeah, on the pommel.
Yeah. There's the train.
There's the train. Always on time.
Hardy said, would be interesting to get some industry reps on the show so we could ask them what exactly is holding them back since the pandemic is largely over. I'm about through with Italian-made stuff, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you got to get it if you want a cap and ball, I guess, but you got any thoughts on that, Caleb? Italian-made stuff?
Go get original.
It's getting to where, I mean, it's getting to
It's
where
about the
you're
same
over
money
halfway
anymore.
to the cost of it nowadays for some of them.
Right.
The last ones we got from them were just junk. Need a lot of work.
Yep. Both Pieta and Uberti. Both have been
And they've
bad.
always needed work.
Yeah,
That's just the way it is. They all
But they need
work.
more work now.
they do.
Or
I mean,
maybe we
they're
just
getting to
got
the
some
point where,
lemons.
But
you know, you should at least come where it times. At least a little bit, you know.
I've had to work on every one of my Ubertis. None of them were as bad as the one Pieta that I basically had to rebuild the internals on.
Yeah.
They just required a little fitting. But it's kind of like I said, there's Monday and Friday guns, and then there's Tuesday through Thursday guns. Tuesday through Thursday guns are some of the better ones. Monday and Friday guns are never very good.
I'm starting to think they're taking off Tuesday through Thursday. They're only working Mondays and Fridays now. Because, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that just, there was a day when you could file a sharp edge or you could go in there and you could do this or that. We worked on all of that, you know, replace the spring, whatever. But it's got to the point where when you order it, so a lot of people are like, you can't even cock the hammer out of the box. So, I mean, that's getting a little too far out there as far as the Italian stuff goes, in my opinion. We just need a couple good CNC American machinists to start cranking them out like Kibler does with the long rifles.
Thing of it is though, by the time you make them in America and get them to the quality that, you know, Colt was back in the day.
Well, that's what
same problem. They're going to be overpriced.
I always thought that too, but Kibler turns out one of the highest end flintlock rifles. And
yeah, but they're also
under
CNC machining wood, and they're buying the girls made.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why can't somebody do that to
CNC machining on metal?
Revolver
is a different ball game because then you have to case harden the metal. You have to go through metal treatment. So yeah, it's not just the CNC machining. There's a lot of other components that are going to play in that too.
Well, that's true. Jeremy Gunslinger said I paid $450 for my sharps used. Yeah, you got to pay.
There is a reason why the high standard Colt reproduction is as expensive as an original Colt. That is probably the absolute best reproduction revolver I have ever handled.
Mm-hmm.
Smooth, everything was just absolutely perfect on it. And my friend, he didn't pay the full $2,000. He got it for $1,500, but still $1,500 for a revolver. A lot of people are going to want to pay that.
That is true. I just think there's got to be a way to do it somewhere else better than what, because I honestly, you know, we talk about in history, what always happens about every 50 years, the equipment starts wearing out.
Right.
You notice that? And I kind of wonder if that's what's going on with a lot of these.
Well, I think, and the other thing is that to keep the price point on these guns, I think what they've done is they've started paying less for gunsmiths.
Because
that's something you see even in the U.S. is somebody will retire, they reopen that position for less pay.
Yep.
So,
well, because the guy coming in's got 2 years of experience, the guy that just left had 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the pandemic and stuff too, you know, we're not over there. I don't know what happened, you know, production wise, if they're still in lockdowns or they still got limited production. And who knows, maybe they're trying to catch up financially because they weren't making money during that pandemic.
Yeah, that is true.
But the thing is they are producing. They're starting to come back into the country more and more.
Yeah,
and
I will say that one we bought since the pandemic that actually worked out pretty good was that Wells Fargo model we got for you. That one was still all right.
Yeah, that
was
was
in time.
pretty good.
Everything was good on it.
Yeah,
but
I think it was made in 19.
Yeah, probably was.
Yeah,
it was probably in stock. Gray Pilgrim said I ran out of room in my gun cave walls, so I bought some Lazy Susans. Caleb had one of those. We finally got rid of it. Thing took out a lot of space. Turkey Creek said, is the 1776 parts from the Ye Old Rifle Shop? Yes, they are. It's a 100% rifle shop build. Gray Pilgrim said, I have paper cutter sharps. I paid a whopping $600. Flagging Leland says, I cannot believe Snapper chose his legit wife over the bros. Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
That was very well worded to get around it, Lagging Leland. That was very well done. Oh, man. Soylent Green said, I remember when the Adventures Cowboy did a video on Cimarron Pedersoli Sharp's business model pre-COVID, and they were under 1,000. Most of the Italian rifles are approaching 2,000 nuts. That is true.
Yeah, I think I bought mine. When I bought mine, it was right at 1,000. And then I traded it for a Henry. And I looked at the price of a Henry, and I got a good trade.
Gunsmith 4570 says for ASM parts, check Deer Creek products. Oh, thanks. So maybe I will. Gray Pilgrim's not selling his sharps for $700 now. Jay Wheeler's in says hello everyone. The smoke is laughing is in. Silent Green said you're gonna try to rawhide wrap on a wrist on a historical repair. Yeah, it's gonna be a historical repair on the outside, but inside it's going to be doweled and glued and tight bond 3'd, and it'll be as stout as I can possibly make it inside. But on the outside, it'll look like a rawhide repair. If you want to see what I'm going to do, if you want to see what I've done before, go check out my 1868 trapdoor video. Okay, yes, I read that. Yep, Boise, Idaho is where my land and sea is. Garrett, I have a few 5070 and a few 5090, but I need them for that Bannerman butchered one I have. Yeah, you better keep them. I'd hang on to them. Don't ever get rid of them. Rob's Vintage Guns and Gabs said, hi, guys. Olivia Wood said, hi. Turkey Creek said, Garrett, I believe that brass plate was just called a wear plate. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was actually talking to you, Turkey Creek, when we were talking about that. That's right.
I'm trying to think of what plate you're talking about.
He calls it a wear plate. It's just, we were looking at a couple of real historic reproductions, and they were actually 62. Well, one was a 62 caliber Hawken, and the guy had built it up, and then there's this really thin brass sheet metal plate around the forearm right in front of the lock that wraps around and is tacked in place. And that was evidently a thing for that rifle for carrying across the pommel, so you didn't wear the rifle.
That sounds to me more like it was a brake that was fixed with sheet metal.
Well, it's not. It doesn't go all the way around. I'll show you a picture of one sometime if I find it, but it was evidently a thing.
Because if it's put right there in the middle, if you put that across your lap, that's right. It's going to be covering right where the hole is in the saddle.
Right across the middle. I don't
See
get
what I
what
mean?
you're saying.
It's going to be sitting there right between the bars on the saddle.
Yeah, it might be, but it has to sit on the saddle somewhere, and that thing's about that long. So,
Okay.
I've seen it. I'll have to show you. It's a picture of one. Hardy said not to harp on the Italian stuff so much, but it's not like they're using cheap labor from a third world country. I wouldn't think making them in America would be that much more expensive. Jeremy P. said, I came to the same conclusion about Italian imports years ago when USFA was still affordable. Caesar said, I think I'll get a Pedersoli PA Pennsylvania rifle in my neck with my taxes. Cool. That'd be good.
So I was talking, this has been years ago. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and say something. Caleb, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
This has been quite a few years ago, but this same thing come up. Why can't we produce them in the U.S.? That's one guy who was a machinist, basically broke it down, and to produce the same quality Italian revolver in the United States, And at that time, a 51 Navy for was going for just a little more over, about 350 in the middle, between 3 and 4. He said that same gun would go up to 600 to produce it in the United States.
Yeah, but it'd be made in America. That'd make it better, right?
Not always. Not if you're using everything the same steel, same everything. To produce it in the United States, you're going to jump that price up to about $600 or more. And he said that was a low ball estimate.
I still don't, even though you said like Kibler's just machining the wood on those, I get that with the CNC, but you're still buying the barrel and the complete lock and everything for $1,200 and all parts. So, I mean, granted, you got to put it together yourself, but all the metal work's already finished pretty much.
Right.
It's just
if you're talking
the weight.
A pistol to produce that's finished, they're going to be a lot more expensive than what the Italians are.
Yeah, you're probably right. Rod's Vintage Guns and Gabs said, sold all my Italian stuff, kept my Thompson Hawken and my vintage English percussion side by side, and my flintlock trade gun by David Dolliver. That's all. Yeah, because number 11 caps here are non-existent. Glad I kept a stash. Yeah, I've been trying to convert everything over to 4-wing musket caps that I can find because I got a lot of those.
So I looked up. Remington is producing caps again.
Really?
Very slowly. You can get them, and there's certain localized areas that have them. I found some online. I think it was like 1,000 of them, but high priced.
Yeah. Gina Wood said, Coca-Cola with Duke, good evening. And Stephen M. Mann said, I have 1,500 wrapped up in my most recent revolver that just left New York today. Yeah, that's they get spendy fast. If you're going to buy an original of the big, I'd say if you're going to buy an original of the 51 Navy or the 60 Army, buy them now because they're not coming down. They're going up fast. Those two are anyway. 49 pocket model still staying right down there. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, it's more common. It was, most produced Colt firearm ever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them around.
Whereas out of those three, the 60 Army is probably the most rare out of those three. So that's why it's up there past $2,000 now for an original. iPod Walker said, 11 bang bang. If the gun is made in Italy, I just came back last August from Italy, and there is no lockdown. It's all free run. John Ski said, Rindle Holb over Springfield Trapdoor, LOL. Well, I don't know what that first gun is. Do you know what that is?
No.
Well, I guess I can't argue the point because I don't know which gun he's talking about there.
Rindle Holb.
Yeah, Uncle Chaw said, I think Kibler might get into a trade gun this year. Yeah, I heard that. That'd be interesting.
Now that I might definitely be interested.
I'd be in first in line for that. By the way, if you get first in line with them, be ready to wait a year. Stephen,
well, then just order me one while you're at it, Garrett.
Yeah. Okay. Carrie Sotomayor said there is a lot less work making a lock and a barrel than just the frame of the 50s and 60s cap and ball revolver. I don't know if that's so. That lock's pretty intricate, for one thing. There's about as many moving parts in that as there is a revolver, especially for a 2-trigger setup. And that's a lot more barrel to rifle. And not only that, but the barrel's swamped and weighted at the ends and narrow in the center. And that's not counting your trigger guards and your butt plate and your thimbles and your ramrod pieces.
Yeah, but those parts are easy to produce. What he's saying
sights.
is that frame is so intricate because you got to cut the rounds on the back for the recoil shield.
Yeah.
You got to cut the channel up there for the hand. You got to cut the hammer channel. You got to do the screw holes. You got to do the pin holes in the front. Do the arbor hole in the front. Cut out that area. Yeah, it's a lot more intricate and takes more time to produce the Colt frame than it does. Well,
yeah, but you got to, like on a flintlock, you still have to channel and you have to dovetail all the underlugs and the sights and the. I mean, you're probably. I would agree with you, I guess, because I mean I've been into a lot of Colt revolvers and nothing new to me, but I don't see them being much more complicated than a set trigger lock and set triggers.
Oh, it's a lot more complicated, especially when you're talking CNC machining and the amount of time it takes.
Yeah.
I guess the way to do it is to look at what the coding to program that CNC machine. Then you can see the difference.
Yeah.
And then the hookup on it, because when you're cutting wood, you don't need to run oil. You don't have to have a special machine for that. Because you're just cutting wood.
He makes the locks on the CNCs too.
Yeah, but when you're making a flat lock,
they're not flat. I mean, they're round faced.
Yeah, that's easy.
Okay. I guess I'll
You're
go
on
with
one
you.
dimension. You got to go 3 dimensions when you're doing a Colt. You're doing 1 dimension when you're doing a flat piece of metal. It's 3 dimensions when you're doing that Colt style thing.
But it's a round face English lock.
It's
So
still
does that
flat.
make a difference?
It's still flat.
So what you're talking about is the recoil shields, right?
I'm talking about the whole frame on a Colt. So a lock plate is flat. Find an empty can. Dang nabbit. This is a Colt.
Yeah.
More dimension. It takes more to carve something out of this than it does that.
Okay, I'll agree with you on that. I just was saying because one side of that lock is rounded to an extent. It's not as big as a recoil shield, I grant you. But
yeah. No, it's one of those you could turn a lock out in probably a couple hours, where it might take a day to turn out a Colt.
Yeah. Turkey Creek said new Kibler kit coming this year isn't a trade gun, it's a Colonial Fowler. Oh, cool. That's okay too. Soylent Green said maybe India will make a smoothbore Colt revolvers. Colt revolver. Okay. Okay, yeah. Todd B said he meant an 1871 Rindel rifle used by Austro-Hungarians.
Oh, okay.
I still don't know that I would argue that for the purposes of the rifle in the United States that would have been a better choice, considering they didn't have any money. But maybe the rifle's probably better. Gray Pilgrim said, I have one factory made as nice as custom built. It's his Austin Halick. Yeah, you had that in your video today. I saw it. Rob G said, when I got my 66 trapdoor back in 2000, I found 2 boxes of 5070 cartridges from PCI for $3 a piece. Have been reloading them ever since. Ethan said, Ethan's here. He said, I can't join right now, but I saw somebody mention the Rindel, and it reminded me that I saw a Rindel flintlock musket on Gunbroker just a minute ago. Okay, so John Ski said, John C. said, Rindel hull was the 1870s Austro-Hungarian breech loading tabernacle rotating breech block rifle. Look it up if you get a chance. Okay. Kerry Sotomayor said the frame has nearly no square edges to hold on to. It's all fixturing. Caesar said, I got my flints and got the Traditions Kentucky pistol going good. I know Traditions is a cheaper gun, but I was surprised at how well the lock worked and sparked. Question for Duke from Gray Pilgrim. Duke, have you seen a locksmith to replace your Liberty Safe digital dial? If not, you should. My gun safe is an old analog.
I'll tell you the reason why I haven't bothered with that. I understand the reasoning. I'm not going to get into the whole politics of it. But the way I see it is if somebody shows up, I'd rather have them get the code from Liberty, and then afterwards, once everything's done, we can fix that problem after. Because otherwise, if I change the code and somebody comes in with a bogus warrant, they just take a angle grinder and they cut a hole in my freaking safe, and then I've got to replace a safe that's now double the price of what I paid for it back then. And yeah, an angle grinder, I could have this thing open in 5 minutes.
You got a
it's
mean
just
angle
stopping
grinder.
the lazy ones that want to come in and grab something.
Okay, so Cool Hand said, I wonder if the Turks could turn out a better quality Colt clone than the Italians. That's a good question because the Gersons that they're turning out, and Tissos is made in Turkey, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like they're turning out excellent shotguns in 1911s. Maybe they could. It'd be interesting. Their 1911 cost, $350. Why couldn't they make a?
Well, I paid $550 for mine, but yeah, they're back in that $350 to $450 range.
Yeah. So why couldn't they make a fit? Well, obviously they'd have to gear up, but you'd think they could make a 51 Navy for that same
Market.
price. Revolvers
The
are
market.
more intricate, I guess, than semi-autos.
So the whole thing is the Italians got into that market because they were filming westerns in Italy at about the same time period. So the whole reason why we have Uberti and Pieta is because of the Italian market and the fact that Europe is just fascinated with U.S. Western American history. So you got all these guys that, the what was it? For a few dollars more. That movie wasn't that great of a movie. It was basically a Uberti advertisement. It's when Lee Van Cleef goes over there and lets that roll down to show all those guns on that thing. He's advertising what Uberti now has in stock.
Mm-hmm. It is an advertisement.
It is. It's a Uberti advertisement. So yeah, that was a thing. And so down in Turkey, they're making what sells. So they're making cheaper reproductions of shotguns, Colts, and they're making pretty good money on it. It's like my favorite hunting shotgun that's in the safe right now is a TriStar. Everybody gives TriStar crap. Well, you know what? They're made in Turkey. They're a copy of the Remington. What is that? The Model 1100, the semi-auto.
Yeah, 1100.
I got no qualms with it. It works. Never had a problem with it, other than one day my barrel come flying off because the screw come undone. But other than that, no problems.
I have a TriStar over and under. I haven't had any problems with it, and I've got quite a few rounds and quite a few birds with it.
Yep.
Okay, iPod Walker has a very interesting comment here. He said, 11 bang bang, I still can't get over the fact that Frontier Mountain Men would not pony up the money to buy a breech loader like the Hall 1812 to use for survival. You have any thoughts on that statement, Duke? I mean, I have a few.
Yeah.
For one,
finding one of them would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
It would have been kind of tricky to get your hands on one in the 20s.
So those early hauls, the flintlock hauls, they weren't popular. They didn't work well.
Blow gas in your face.
And you've got this flintlock right in the middle of your sight picture. So yeah, they weren't that popular. The military didn't adopt very many of them, but the later haul they come out, around the time of the Mexican-American War, that one was very popular. In fact, Fremont, I think, even equipped an outfit during the Civil War with them. But it was just wasn't practical out here in the mountains.
And it comes down to, I think you could probably, especially if you weren't buying the cartridges for it, the paper cartridges.
Yeah.
You could probably still load a smoothbore trade gun almost as fast as you could load and prime that gun, because you're not shoving it through the rifling. The good old smoothbore trade gun is just a spit the powder down, drop the ball, ram it home, prime and go, and it's not.
And that's not to say that there weren't mountain men out here. There wasn't a mountain man that didn't have one. You see a variety of guns. It's just that there were some that weren't common. You'd see them. And then there's other ones that were just left and right. And so Dickerts, like I said, we've talked about Dickert rifles are noted. But probably the most common was the J.J. Henry. That's the one I was thinking of the other night when we was talking about them, Garrett.
The Henry?
The Henry. Yes.
Yep.
Not the Lehman trade rifles. It was a J.J. Henry rifle. That was actually probably the most common mountain man gun out there. Followed closely by the Northwest trade gun and then the Lehman trade rifles after that. But yeah, that's not to say there weren't, we down at Bent Swart, they had 2 locks from British Brown Bess muskets. Okay. Not a real common trade item. You don't see them a lot of places, but they had 2 there. Probably was a few more at other trading posts out and around the West. So yeah, not to say some mountain man didn't, but just wasn't that common.
And you'd be sacrificing one of the most prized thing was accuracy, because that's one of the trouble with the hull, because it blows gas in your face and you don't have a good sight picture. But what I've noticed is a lot of mountain men have this issue. They will have the coolest, fanciest rifle one year, and then after rendezvous, they got a smoothbore again.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot. There was one guy, I can't remember who it was, bought him a Hawken rifle towards the end of the rendezvous. And next season, he had to go in, and the beaver had been starting to get trapped out. It was kind of getting to that end of the beaver years. And he couldn't pay up his debt from the year before, so he had to sell that Hawken to cover his debt, and wound up leaving there with a Northwest trade gun and still in debt.
That's about the way it goes, isn't it?
Yep. Uh-oh, now we've lost Garrett. Do we still have Caleb?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay.
I don't know where he went.
I don't know where Garrett went. Well, go knock on the door and see what he's doing.
Okay.
There he is.
I have this crazy fancy mouse that I got with this computer, and and you wouldn't believe it, but they have an escape button right there on the side of the stupid thing. And if you bounce it, you kick yourself out of these things.
I got an old hardwired mouse if you want one of them.
This one's hardwired. What I really wanted was the old ball in the bottom mouse, you know.
Oh, I'm talking about hardwired where it's got 3 buttons.
Yeah. Oh.
Is the metal one counted as a button?
Yeah, it rolls and it works as a button, and I hate that thing because if you hit that button, instead of having to roll up and down the screen, if you hit that button, you just move the mouse and the screen goes up and down. Drives me nuts.
Hey,
Yeah.
Garrett, what's the deal with the 41 rimfire out here? You been shooting it?
No, I was cleaning in here. I was rearranging, and it got moved.
Oh.
Guns and Water.
That thing's the whole...
James Reeves burnt down every Turk shotgun he tried. And you know what? I saw that video, and I kind of have to disagree because I had a lot of Turkish shotguns, especially the TriStars. You can't kill them. I don't know what was wrong with his. I don't know what they did to it, but in normal use, you just can't kill it with a hammer. The ones that we've had, and I think Duke would probably agree.
Mine, I've put probably 1,000 rounds through it at this point. If not 1,000, I'm getting pretty close. Yeah, it runs, it shoots, it still kills geese, ducks, squirrels, turkeys, whatever I aim at.
Yep. And we're obviously not running them like they did in that video, but it is what you pay for. I mean, I've also seen people that do meltdown videos that say that the AK won't last more than a couple hundred rounds either. So, you know, it's one of those
What was
things.
it, Iraq veteran? They fired an AK and it finally quit working and was going to single or semi or no, it was a bolt
Well,
action.
yeah, his meltdowns were pretty epic because they'd go on forever, you know. But
Yeah,
I've
well, that
also-
one he realized the reason why it melted down is because the barrel had drooped and the thing gas wasn't hitting. So they go over to a tree and they whap it on a tree, and guess what? It runs another 800 rounds.
By Land and Sea said, I've handled some of the Turk pistols, and I have found that their quality control is kind of hit and miss. Some are amazing quality, and others will take a lot to make them good. Yeah, Gerson and Tassos are the two that I've handled as far as the handguns, and I like Gerson, and you like Tassos.
Yeah, and so when Tassos first come out, they were not very good guns. They weren't. I mean, they were decent. The triggers were terrible. You know, Rock Island was better quality in them, and not dissing Rock Island, but I've seen some Rock Island guns that they don't look good. My uncle's got a little Commander over there, and it's got pits in the side of the metal where there was voids in the metal in the slide. Still works fine, but this one, when I got it, it's beautiful. It functions. It's smooth. It's got a nice trigger. Oh, the trigger is just wonderful in it. So yeah, I mean, they've improved.
Yep. Scary Yeah,
That's one of
sorry.
the things too why I say Uberti, everybody says Uberti here as of late has been really bad. Basically view it as Uberti is starting over again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have to give them a couple of more years before they start getting back to what they was before that wasn't that great.
Rock McLaughlin said Turkey, at least a couple decades ago, had a lot of working gunsmiths that could have fit revolvers well. Kerry Stradelmeyer said, looking for military heritage, looking at a model 1766 French Charleville or a Springfield infantry musket, possibly a Brown Bess. What do you think? What do you think, Caleb?
For what? You cut out.
He's
Can you
thinking
hear me?
about, yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
He's thinking about a model 17 military heritage 1766 Char. The Springfield infantry musket, I would assume that he's either talking about the 1816 or the 1795. He said, or possibly a Brown Bess. What do you think? What?
The Springfield was pretty sweet that we had. The Springfield we had for a while was pretty sweet, but the Charleville's pretty nice too.
Yeah.
Brown Bess is okay, but I'd rather have the Springfield probably.
Yeah, we got videos on all three of those if you're talking about the 1795 Springfield, obviously. But I mean, it depends on what you're doing. You get a lot of mileage out of the Brown Bess if you're trying to go for a certain era or something, or if you just want a good heavy hitting 12 gauge, basically. The other two are going to be a little more like a 16 gauge, I guess. And
20. They're more like a 20, aren't they?
Well, no, the Charlevilles and the Springfield.
Yeah, because they're 20. Yeah, they're 69. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, if you just ask Duke, I mean, how much historical reenacting have you done? The Brown Bess carries you a long ways in a lot of places.
Yeah, you can do everything from Revolution up through fur trade.
Mm-hmm.
But just to have one to shoot, the Springfield's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's basically just a Charleville with a different insignia, and different. They're basically the same thing.
Basically, the first Springfield was the first American-made Charleville.
This is true.
Yeah, John Ski said, I bought a 1887 lever action shotgun copy of Winchester 1887, and it's good quality.
The Chiappas are expensive, but I had one, and somebody down right there bought it off of me. But mine was the Century Arms.
Yeah. Greg Pilgrim said he once held a cap haul, but he couldn't afford it. He said, I have a Turkish made like Marlin copy of the model Winchester Model 92. Jeremy Gunslinger said the one that lived long probably had a few different types of guns on him from different people trying to get their fur. Oh, you mean Mountain Man? I mean, I know we've talked about this, but I think, what's the records you see of handguns and secondary guns? I mean, we hear about the shotguns for camp guarding, obviously, and stuff, and, but it doesn't seem like they carry more than one long gun most of the time per person.
No, just because it would come down to, how much crap you're carrying. A lot of the guys had a pack horse with them, if not two. But everybody went out in brigades, like I've said before, the whole Jeremiah Johnson thing, going out by yourself, that's not going to happen. And some of them would take guns to trade with natives because you never know when you run into some natives and you need to stay with them for a few days or through the winter or need to replace your horses. It's always good to have something to trade. But yeah, long guns, very rarely you see a guy with more than one. Now, when it comes to pistols, anywhere from 1 to 2, pretty average. Usually always flintlock mentioned. Patterson revolvers get mentioned several times. Mm-hmm. But it was also by guys that are remembering from long time past. So sometimes I think they kind of get their days and times and places mixed up. But yeah, everybody had a pistol for sure.
Yeah.
Or I should say just about everybody had a pistol.
Smoothbore or rifle pistols, like a Kettling pistol?
Kettlin's, yeah, you see those out here. Rifle pistols, it's kind of a, just about as much variety as there is with long guns.
Yeah. Let's see. Todd B said that the Sauce 1911s all use all tool steel parts, no MIM. I collect 1911s. The Tassos guns are equal to the $1,200 1911s.
Yep.
I gotta agree with you. I mean, maybe not in fit and finish in every little way, but as far as function, yeah, I don't see why not. Ethan chimed in. He said that he preferred the 1770s or 1766 over the Springfield or the Brown Bess. Let's see. Octagon Garage said, I've seen some online European websites that have S&B percussion caps in number 1011, but why can't we get them here? I thought about ordering some, but I don't know if customs will let me.
You're importing an explosive, so probably not. Yeah, I was trying to think where I looked up Remington number 10s and 11s, and there is a couple places that have them. They're starting to pick back up on them, but yeah. RWS, I know, was available for a little while. You could get RWS. Yeah. And I've been told RWS are better anyway. I don't know. I've never tried them. I do know that Remington caps are hotter than CCI caps.
Mm-hmm.
But
you know what's sad though? I watch, we all do, but as YouTube channels, they're always trying to grow, watch the trends, right? Pre-pandemic, you couldn't go wrong with cap and ball revolvers, right?
Yep.
Go watch somebody that's trying to make a cap and ball revolver now. It's flatlined. Nothing. No interest whatsoever from anybody. And I honestly think the lack of caps is, if it hasn't yet, it's on its way to killing the interest in the cap and ball revolvers.
Well, there's the lack of caps. There's also
quality control.
But what I was going for is GoX going under there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Swiss and Schutzen were kind of hard to come by. Yeah, there's kind of a mixture of things. So do I expect it to be real hot and heavy here? Not for a little while, but next 2-3 years, I think it's going to start to come back pretty strong.
I'll tell you what, right now, if you're watching the trends, flintlocks are killing it. I know some little channels that had, 30 subscribers turn out an India-made pistol, a good high-quality video on a India-made pistol, and now, they have 6,000. They got 150,000 views on that video. It's like, and just about anything you're doing in the last month with flintlocks is just, it'll drive channels like crazy.
Yep. But if you also look at the trends on our YouTube channels, and probably even in the chat section here, majority of the guys that are interested in that are, I'm not trying to say you're all getting old, but you're older than we are.
Yeah.
You got started in this when we were, before we were even born, probably some of us. And at that time and period, there was a big interest. You had the Mountain Man rendezvous. Civil War reenacting was really getting on strong.
Centennial.
All history reenacting was getting on strong. You look at it nowadays, and you go to a reenactment, you go to a living history event, and guess what? Those same guys that were doing it, 20, 30, 40 years ago are still doing it. But guys my age, sometimes a lot of places, they're very hard to find.
Yep.
So you got to think about that. That interest in the history right there is going to determine the interest in the guns.
And when Red Dead Redemption 3 comes along.
When Red Dead Redemption 3 comes along.
We'll be riding the single action armies and again.
Actually, if they do another prequel, it may be Cap and Ball. But
That'd be
when
cool.
they introduced the 1851 Navy
Mhm.
into Red Dead Online, my 1851 Navy video overnight almost doubled in views. I think I had like 20,000 views in one day on that video.
Yep.
I don't even know what I have on it now. I don't even know what.
And it's funny, it just doesn't work like it does in the game.
No.
That's just-
But you
just
know
watching-
what? They do have they did do pretty good or better
Yeah.
reloading in Red
except
Dead
for the
Redemption 2.
cartridges that grow out of the wrist.
Yeah, well, you can only do so much.
You can only do so much. I give you that. Let's see. There was a couple things here. Hey, good question here, Jeremy. I'll go back up. Ethan said 1766 is always going to be his favorite. Why didn't cavalry units have a couple shotguns for other than hunting? Now,
Oh, by
this
the
is
time
a-
out here, it was kind of keeping far enough away that you don't have to worry about it.
Well, if he hadn't said for other than hunting, I was going to say that every Western outpost did have 2 Springfield shotguns after 1881.
Yep.
And it was not actually just for hunting. It was literally made for troop entertainment. Hunting was involved, but that was the big drive, was keep them from getting bored and doing stuff they shouldn't. Reloadable shotguns. A trapdoor 20 gauge, 2 of them for every outpost in the West.
But those that are wondering, why didn't they have a shotgun? Just remember the 3 rules of terminal ballistics. Pistols put holes in people. Rifles put holes through people. Shotguns at the right range with the right load will physically remove a chunk of crap off your opponent and throw that on the floor.
And
But you got to be at the right range with the right load.
the other difference was cavalry unit doesn't work like, say, the Wyatt Earp Vengeance Posse. Okay. And the other thing is, you have to remember they used them in the Civil War, but in the Civil War they were fighting a stationary line that they could get right up to. And if you're in Indian country, and this is kind of one of the things where even like the say the Henry in 44, say you had one of those in 1888. If that Indian has a sharps on you, you're out of luck out here on the prairie. I mean, maybe back east is different, but out here, if you can't get within range, it's like getting into a boxing match with a guy that's got 6-foot arms. You're just good luck.
Yeah. The only military organization that you really see a historical reference to heavily using shotguns out here is the Texas Rangers, and they love their 10s and 12 gauges. There's a picture of 3 Rangers. One of them is believed to be Jack Hayes when he was still pretty young, didn't have any facial hair. They're all 3 holding shotguns. And yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure they're the only. Now, I shouldn't say, because the military with a smoothbore did use buck and ball loads.
Mhm.
So that technically falls under your shotgun category. But it kind of, as bullets develop, technology advances, I got to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, it gets to the point of keep the enemy out there. The further away they are from you, the less harm they can do.
Yep. And you got to realize Texas Rangers are fire breathers. They're smaller in number. Their job is to get in amongst they're going to get out there with the enemy, How many pitch fight battles have you heard of Texas Rangers where they're just neck and neck running the horses at a dead beat and just shooting at each other? That happens a lot. The military, Look back at the Modoc Wars. The military's idea is we're going to run them to ground. When they get to said ground, aka their village or wherever they're going to stop, we're going to go up around them, and we're just going to sit here and wait, or attack from distance, unless you're Custer, and then you try to do the Texas Rangers thing when you have no business doing the Texas Rangers.
Well, and then the Army was doing that because at the Powder River fight that opened 1876, Great Sioux War, they sent the 2nd Cavalry right into the middle of the village, basically to confuse and create confusion, but they go in with their pistols drawn.
Yeah.
Because with your pistol drawn, you have, if you loaded it fully, 6 shots. At this time, they're still loading them all the way up. So you got 6 shots, whereas if you're right in there with a double barrel shotgun, you got 2 shots and have to reload.
Yep. That is true. And it's not. It's just shotguns are great for battle, but they're for a certain kind of battle. They're for a they're great for a civilized army facing a civilized army. Let's put it that way.
They'd be okay in that close quarters combat, but
yeah, but it can't be. It can't be for the style of fighting the military wanted to do. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Now, whether or not they always got to do that, that's another thing. But that's what they planned on doing.
Military today, they do use shotguns to an extent.
To breach doors, yeah.
They're using them to breach doors, close quarters. You're not going to find them out in a trench warfare shooting across 200 yards at the enemy.
Nope. That is a very interesting subject, though. It's a very interesting question.
What was that line there at the end of Rio Lobo, that last gunfight? And Jack Elam sitting there shooting his shotgun out the door. John Wayne says, "They ain't doing any good with that thing." Well, it makes me feel better.
Makes me feel better. Why don't you blow a bugle? I haven't seen that in a long time. Okay, so rolling down through here.
Don't you know any other tune? I don't know this one. That's why I keep practicing.
Yeah. Said he found some Winchester Magnum Kensington. Got the triggers wired back on that thing. Yeah, my thumbs ain't what they used to be. Riding across this rocky ground. Got another barrel left. Get on.
If you hear a loud noise, that'll be Mr.
It's just
Ketchum
Mr.
dying.
Dying. He's crazy. You're right. I'm crazy. Okay. Just got to stop her. Okay. IWS Bull 1 said, might be older, but better looking. Carrie Saltmeyer said, I'm sitting right here and you're calling me old. Jeremy P said, around here, it's actually hard to find a store that stocks black powder. Yeah, either make it yourself, you got to order it online pretty much anywhere now. Rock McLaughlin said, older than y'all is my camera on. Stephen M. Man, why, yes, I'm 40 year between you and I. 40 year between you and I at Fort Laramie.
Yep.
Tim O'Neill said, I saw a video with Duke 9 years ago. I commented then.
You know what's funny is that Steve worked with another guy that I'm good friends with up there at Fort Laramie, and that was before I was born.
Hardy says, that is a good question. As far as shotguns go, what would you say that 10 or 12 gauge was most popular on the frontier?
Either one.
And it depends on what time period of the frontier. If you're talking pre-Civil War, 20 gauge is the most popular in the trade guns, 62 caliber.
Yeah, trade guns. If you're talking like your actual, like your double barrel shotgun.
Yeah, post-Civil War double barrel shotgun that you usually see, even a little bit beforehand. That's a good question. You think?
Even in the 1840s, 10 and 12 gauge double barrel shotguns, side by side shotguns.
Flints or caps?
You see mention of double barrel shotguns in that area where they could be either.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the guys that I got a book laying around here, Louis Gerard, he talks about trading his fancy rifle that he bought just before he come out here. He bought it back east, trading that for a double barrel shotgun and a bag full of round ball. So we know he's shooting it with round balls.
Mm-hmm.
But and it doesn't specify, but he's out there in 1840 something, so it could be either way.
Tim O'Neill said, I'm taking my White Earp carbine to the range tomorrow. New Pieta, stock nipples, 10-year-old caps. What could go wrong? By Land and Sea said, I don't know how true it is, but and as his doc, so he's usually pretty good on this. But I remember reading an article a few years ago. U.S. Army mule skinners would have Colt 3-trigger shotguns on the wagons.
Yeah, now sometimes on the wagons, they would carry the shotguns on the wagons, but You also got to remember too, a lot of the times those are civilian contracts. Guys hired to drive them wagons too. Because at Fort Laramie, and Stephen can correct me if I'm wrong, but Fort Laramie, the wagon masters, or not the wagon masters, the mule skinners, they had their own little stockade that was built down to where the telegraph station would eventually come in the 1860s. They had their stockade down there. They were contractors.
Mhm.
They worked for the quartermaster department. They were not soldiers.
Yeah. Jeremy Gunslinger said figured they'd use the shotguns for forts defense during raids and stuff.
Like I said, civilian contractors, but yeah, military issue, like Garrett said in 81. You had the trapdoor. Prior to that, I mean, soldiers could buy their own guns.
Well,
Now,
they
would buy a gun. The company fund would buy it.
They did a run where Springfield paid. Just give me just a second here. They did a run where Springfield paid on this very subject. I just about forgot about it. Oh, they didn't make them themselves. Let's see, Star Receiver Arms. That's 80. That's close. Ah, right here. The double barrel Springfield system.
Yeah.
And this was in 76. Springfield Armory was asked to supply double barrel shotguns for use at Leavenworth Prison, obviously, and some other places. The Armory did not have them available, and therefore Colonel Benton requested the master armorer to come up with a prototype as he evaluated costs of commercial shotguns from Remington and Parker. While the author was reviewing many of these wooden pattern breeches, blah, 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 blah. So basically, they bought a bunch of shotguns at $3.15 a piece. Prior to this, Springfield had always purchased foreign-made shotguns for service, as will be confirmed in the next letter. The records designate that over the years, 25 shotguns per year of 10 gauge were issued to the military between 1874 and 1875. Between June of 1875 and 1876, 240 double-barrel shotguns were purchased. It is assumed the shotguns went through normal inspection, and as of yet, no surviving guns have been authenticated. However, the shotgun has been located, blah, blah, blah. But then they also talk about not just for prisons. Spencer shotguns, they purchased those. And they purchased Parker's. And these were also not only going to prisons, but going out to forts for hunting. So they could have been used in defense of the forts, I guess, if you had to. Are you still there, Duke?
I am.
Angelica Wood said, Garrett, is that a new setup / background? You haven't been in here yet, have you? Did you notice you had an extra couch in the living room?
Shows how much she pays attention.
Well, she just
We're
got
gonna
home.
look at a couple books here.
Okay.
Frontier Regulars and Regular Army O. And if y'all are wanting a good book on soldiers during the 1865 to 1891 period, Regular Army O by Doug McChristian, great resource. This is kind of a companion to another book called 40 Miles a Day on Beans and Hay. Because it's kind of where there's an old Army song that goes along one of the chorus lines, or is it the chorus or the whatever? It goes 40 miles a day on beans and hay in the Regular Army O. So that first book, this one goes with it. Garrett probably knows that song pretty well.
I know a little bit, yeah.
Well, you should record it.
I'd have to learn all the words, but maybe I should someday.
After you record that song that we wrote.
Yeah, okay, we got a few songs to record.
And finish recording the one I started writing.
We had a whole album almost started there. If I had just
we're gonna keep going with it. Yeah. Let's see. Well, they don't have guns listed. They don't have shotguns listed. So let's go to hunting. Oh, hey, Jules Ecafe's in here. He ran a certain pig ranch we won't get into on this one.
Stephen M wants to know. He said, someone I worked who is still there. I wonder who.
Well, I'm not going to say his name out of respect for his privacy, but just say that he's probably one of the longest serving park rangers in the
Can
National
he
Park
give his
Service.
initials?
Well, let's just say that the name is not too hard to guess. You'll find it within yourself.
Okay, that means nothing to me, but okay.
Oh, apparently they've got a thing on homosexuality in the Army. Not going to read that here today.
Let's not. No.
Hunting. All right, we got a section there. Oh, hey, a whole 2 pages on hunting. 345. Look on Garrett's face.
We ain't tackling that subject today.
Oh, let's see. Coming across the bully bear, bare knuckle fighting and hunting was one of the most common diversions, declared Sergeant John E. Cox, 1st Infantry. Okay, fish, mostly game used scarce near force because fish are plenty and easily caught in both the Laramie and Platte rivers. Yeah, there are quite a bit of fish here. Mostly catfish and pike. Yeah, there's not many catfish there, but okay. Let's see here. Yeah, you had to be issued a special pass.
It's like Ethan said, could you imagine being the soldier that broke the one shotgun that all the rest of us have to use for our fun, for the entertainment?
Like I say, yeah, the fort would, they had that issued one, and then the company itself, out of the company fund, could buy a gun. An individual soldier could buy a gun, but remember, them guys are only getting paid $13 a month. Their take-home pay is going to be 10 or less. Because usually they take $1 out that goes to the store, take $1 that goes to the laundress, and take $1 that goes to the company fund. And it's that company fund money a lot of times that would buy that. And I say $1, I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was soldiers weren't getting the full $13 on payday. And then if anybody had any, if you owed anybody money, they'd show up at the paymaster the day you was getting paid, and
beat you to it.
Yeah, but $13 a month during the Civil War, it was $16. After you enlisted for 5 years, if you re-enlisted, it would go back up to 16. If you got promoted to sergeant, it went up to a little bit more. But unless you were an officer, you really weren't able to save up much money.
Yeah.
Then once you got too old, you go to the old soldiers' home.
Yep. And then to the old soldier cemetery.
Yep.
By Land and Sea said, is that song to the tune of Benny Haven O? I don't know that version.
I don't know. 40 miles a day on beans and hay in the regular army. Oh.
I know it. It has a little different tune than what I'm thinking, but Hardy
it's an old Irish song that was sung by Irishmen is the one I heard.
Hardy said your take-home pay could be a lot more if you knew how to fleece your comrades at cards or dice. Yeah, probably once or twice.
So a cavalryman in the field of the Staked Plains of Texas in 1872 expressed remorse after his party killed 21 animals and 3 were put in the wagon for our use. The remaining 18 left on the plains. Seemed ashamed to kill those large animals merely for sport. The meat of those 18 buffalo would have been sufficient to keep the number of families for that number of families for 1 year.
All right, you still with us, Caleb?
Yes, kind of.
Protect 2A wants to know what's your favorite gun in your collection.
That's like asking somebody what their favorite child is.
Okay, here we go. Hunters were provided tents, cooking gear, and ammunition, and were allowed to use their service arms, thus affording soldiers with practical experience that would prove valuable for actual field service, as well as training and shooting at objects over unknown distances. Before the 1880s, companies would often purchase a shotgun or two with the company fund for hunting wildfowl, and small game. Sergeant Cox, for example, recalled using a muzzle-loading shotgun to hunt rabbits and prairie chickens in the vicinity of Fort Randall, Dakota Territory, while First Sergeant Ryan paid $35 for a personal shotgun. In 1881, the National Armory at Springfield, Massachusetts began producing single-barrel 20-gauge shotguns for issue to companies in the West, especially for hunting purposes.
We got one of them. They're kind of cool, but we're having a little trouble. It seems like their 20-gauge shells back then had a little thicker rim than modern 20-gauge shells.
That's probably a truth.
And we got to figure out how to make some that work.
Were they thicker rim or just the extractor wore off?
No, this one's in pretty good shape. There's really no way of knowing. I mean, Frankfurt Arsenal shells are like some of the most rare shotgun shells you can collect. And so I really don't know, and I haven't found anybody on the internet that's wrote up about it.
So here's an interesting one. A Sergeant Thomas White, 10th Cavalry, was granted a hunting pass to be absent from Fort Davis, Texas, but instead spent several days on the lark with disreputable women. I guess you could say he was out doing some Texas hog hunting. And then we lost Garrett.
He got in trouble when he got back because he didn't. He took the shotgun and neglected it.
Oh.
And then apparently some hunters were prone to failure because they go out and spend the entire time drinking and couldn't hit a bird.
Well, there's all kinds of hunting.
Yeah, well, like I just pointed out, the Texas hog hunting.
So, Caleb, you never answered what's your favorite gun in your collection?
All of them.
Oh, well, I like my M1 Grand pretty good.
Yeah, that's fair. What's your favorite gun in your collection, Duke?
Oh, I'm really liking my Henry. I really like my Henry. It's kind of hard to pick. The 1911's up there, my 51 Navy's up there, and the Henry's up there.
I got the Bannerman cut down 66 that I'm pretty proud of. That 50-70. I pretty like that one right now, but it may change next week. Desert Rat 45 said a book to look into would be the U.S. Army in the West, 1870 through 1880. Stephen M. Mann said, I can't hardly remember my own real name. The one I can think of rhymes with next.
No.
Well, that didn't help, did it? Okay, Hardy says, so we all know about leather, shot, powder, snakes, but what loading equipment would the average frontiersman use? What would they really bother? Would they really bother with all the wads in combat?
Usually wadding on like a shotgun, it's just whatever they can shove down the barrel.
Yeah, if they're going to use a shotgun, they're just going to pour the powder down, drop the pellets down in there in combat, and just pull the trigger. But it also depends on the time.
To answer
ahead,
Steve's thing, Steve, if you can't remember your own name, you're not going to know his either. So,
okay. Hardy says, do we have any descriptions of practical muzzle-loading shotgun load of back then?
Say that one again.
Okay, do we have any descriptions of a practical muzzle-loading shotgun load from back then?
No, because most guys didn't describe how much they put in it. They just say they charge it with powder and lead because that's an everyday thing. fact, most of the descriptions from like immigrants that come from loading the gun is from the women because they don't know how to do it. So that's something new to them. So they'll write about it.
Yep. Actually, yeah. Covered wagon women in those books.
There's a couple of them in there that describe the loading of a gun because that's something new to them.
You don't think that they took their pre-measured antler and they poured it into the antler, and then, or do you think they just opened her up, poured down until they decided to stop and then quit?
Both.
You know, I got to think that somebody that knew what they were doing, especially in the 1820s or so, would kind of want to follow similar to what if they knew what the military load was, because those are smooth bores too. Say 100 grain charge, 110 grain charge.
Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? What did I do with it? Oh no! What did I do with it? Ah!
Well, you know the old saying. What was it?
So this horn that's copied off of an original that I made. Talked about this on the Tales of the Trails. You notice it's got these little button things here. That serves two purposes. One, you can tie your strings there to hold it up. But the other reason why this is neck down even smaller than back here goes into the muzzle of the gun.
Yeah, fit it right in. Frowned upon today.
Extremely frowned upon. That's because back in the day, some of those old guys, you know, in the Mountain Men days, probably blew up a horn or two.
But at the same time today, we don't have a pile of natives coming down on us either at the same time when we're loading. We can afford to take time to be safer. It's kind of like when you hear a click and you're shooting a revolver and you stop to make sure you don't have a squib. In a gunfight, you're probably not going to stop. Okay. Stephen Mann said 1985 would have been the last time I talked to any of them. Tim O'Neill said, stop by the old soldiers' home done by Mary McCavern, oldest in Spanish-American Wars vets. I stopped to ask what the building was. He told me. We talked. I gave him $10 to buy a beer. Most of the loads came because the loads used. Okay, let's see if I can read this. What Tim said. He said, most of the loads became the loads that we use today. Yeah, I would. Well, for. Like a square load. Yeah, probably. I get that. Not like a smokeless.
Right. Hey, Steve, I just sent you an email.
Oh, man. Okay, so Guns and Water said, hello, garage guy. Protect 2A said, this is the most historically accurate man I've seen. Iron Wing said, how are we doing, guys? Thinking of picking up a Cimarron 1887. Any thoughts, men? I have a Cimarron 1887. Duke and Caleb and I have all shot the exact same 1887 clone, and that's the only one I think we've ever shot. That was a Chinese-made one.
Yeah. And for all, all of the bad rap them ones get, I must have got a good one. Yeah, the internals are so dadgum sharp, you will cut your fingers if you're not careful loading that thing. But that gun, I fed everything. I've never had a jam with it. It doesn't kick out the last shell, but that's the way it's designed is when it doesn't kick out the last shell, you're empty. I never had a problem with mine. And Mike Bellevue on his, he said he was having a problem, but I think the biggest problem, and the guy I bought that gun from told me the biggest problem that they had with them is basically short stroking. Because once you throw that lever out, that first resistance that you get, that first firm resistance, you've got to push through that just a little bit more to get that shell to pop out. Because that's when that lifter's getting ready to come back up, and that's where people often stop, and then it jams everything up. You got to go past that. It's a very long throw.
Mm-hmm.
A long throw.
Jeremy Gunslinger said muzzleloader paper shotgun cartridges. Yes, those existed. But they would be expensive. Hardy said, safety wasn't invented till later on. In my reading, you come across so many negligent discharges. Literally, yeah. I'll tell you this right now: the immigrants on the wagon trains shot each other way more than they did anybody else on accident.
Dropped guns. It's probably
Dropped
number
guns. Always
'Cause in
dropped
that-
guns.
one. Covered wagon women. There's one they talk about there, and a guy, he dropped the shotgun, caught that hammer, and broke the hammer off and set the gun off and took half of his head with it.
Well, John Wesley Hardin's dad was killed by a shotgun falling off of a wagon. The book I read, and you probably read that, Crossing the Prairie in 1861 or 1864, sorry, where she talks about
Yeah,
they
I
had
got
a
that one.
cap-loaded shotgun where they went out to shoot some grouse and it didn't go off, and the kid got frustrated with it because it didn't even have a cap on it. Took cap off. He thought, well, I dry-balled it. Throws it up on the seat. The wagon hits a bump as it's going down the road. Trigger sets off, and a spark from the hammer hitting the nipple goes into the nipple and ignites the powder and kills a guy. And the kid swears there's no cap on that gun. It couldn't have been that gun. And they look, sure enough, there's no cap on it. It's just literally the spark from the hammer hitting the nipple. It caused it to go off.
There's an old guy I know that knew that. Yeah, I still know him. He's still around, but he went deer hunting with a Northwest trade gun that he'd built. And he didn't like the touch hole. He said the touch hole was too narrow, so he opened it up just a little bit. Well, he got out there, saw a doe at 50 yards, realized he didn't have his powder with him. He'd left it in the truck.
His priming powder?
And he didn't prime the pan. He didn't have any powder with him. He got out of the truck and then realized he had his shooting bag, but he didn't have his horn. So he holds the gun at a 45 kind of gangster style and touches it, and just the sparks going in managed to fall in that hole, and he shot that doe.
Well, that's almost, if you listen to Bad Hand, that's almost a native tactic to drill that hole out big enough that the powder seeps into the pan. You don't ever have to
that was
prime.
the whole thing. Is then they dump the powder down the muzzle, have the prison closed when they do it, and just smack the side of that gun, and then that powder would sweep over there. So it was a self-priming system. Problem is, you're going to lose quite a bit of gas pressure out that hole.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for an hour 42. You want to round her up to an hour 45? Or are you going to go on longer?
Yeah,
I
we
can
can
go
go to an hour
get me some
45.
supper. Yeah, so guys, we're going to go for a couple more minutes here. If you got any questions, throw them out in the chat. This has been a pretty good chat. We started at 69. We're still running 56. Caleb, you got anything to say down there? I can't see you.
I'm just listening.
He's just listening. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hardy said I have an original 1887 that's a lot less fiddly than a lot of repros seem to be. I've heard that. I have heard that. I've heard that the originals are actually really, really nice. So, what else is going on, Duke? You been reading anything, getting all geared up for next week's Tales of the Trails?
No, I need to.
We're doing the Cheyenne Outbreak, right?
Yeah, and I'll probably take a couple books to work with me. The thing of it is where I work at, you never know. There's some nights where, yeah, you can sit and read a book. And then there's some nights you just can't even sit down. So.
All right, here we go. We're going to dive into this because Duke can. If we have to go a little over 145, that's fine. Duke, do you know anything about Lieutenant Colonel Lewis Henry Carpenter at the Battle of Beecher's Island, Colorado?
So I remember the name, and I haven't read on Beecher's Island for a little bit. Let me grab the book right quick. It's a great thing about having my library right there. Because I can go grab my book. Yep, there he is. You call him Colonel. He's listed as Captain in here.
He was shot and killed, right?
Carpenter?
Yeah. No, not Carpenter.
Oh, because he's the one that rescues him.
Okay.
It was Beecher.
Beecher is the one that got killed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Beecher's Island,
Beecher.
yeah, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, he was the one that was wounded there mortally. Yeah, because it was Carpenter's Brunettes. One of the things I was reading up on. I need to. Yeah, he finds the burial scaffold, and then he finds Forsyth. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Find 169. But if anybody's interested, this book right here, if anybody's interested in Beecher Island, is pretty good. This is by John H. Monet, which I need to. There's a couple other books of his I need to go get. Yeah, because that was Company H, 10th Cavalry. Yeah, they were known as Carpenter's Brunettes for whatever reason. Yeah, they were the ones that was sent out and recovered them. So yeah, that was the Buffalo Soldier Unit. I had to refresh my memory there. I knew the name, but I just couldn't remember exactly what he did.
All right, one more comment here. KSU Jedi said, not sure how far off you are from them. I'm just a little up north, but ever bought powder from Powder Valley in Winfield. Seems like when you're not buying, not making, you mention Graphs more. Yeah. No, because Powder Valley is just right down the road from me, actually. But for several years, they didn't do door pickups. Like, you couldn't go there and buy it. I don't know if they are or not now, but it was like you got to order it online, and they were always out of stock for a lot of stuff. But I just ordered from Graphs, and so yeah, lived right down the road from them my whole life. But I've never actually bought anything from Powder Valley. Maybe I should someday. Probably good people.
I've looked. No, I have bought from Powder Valley. Because when Corona hit, and they gave us that first stimulus check, I ordered a bunch of gunpowder from Powder Valley.
Yeah, was it a pretty good deal?
Well, what I paid for 8 pounds, 6 pounds of powder, I could have only got 2.
Well,
yeah, because I remember I got a bunch of 223 powder. I got a couple pounds of CFE 223. I got some Alliant powders. Basically, I got a bunch of 223 powders.
Nice. Well, I guess that about finishes it up. If you guys have got anything else to say, Caleb, you got any thoughts? Any words of wisdom?
Not right now.
Well, hey, they've got GoEx in stock for $30 a pound.
Jeez.
But of course, Pyrodex ain't far behind it, so I guess that's kind of the new normal these days.
Yep.
Let's see if they've got anything for Schutzen. They got Schutzen for $22 a pound. And Schutzen is about the same quality as GoEx. CCI, oh, they're out. That's all out of stock stuff. Never mind. Yeah. Remington number 11's out of stock. $15 for a 10 of 100. Yeah, that was
that was a long time ago.
Yeah. RWS. Oh, that's for $250. Okay, I thought that was for $100. $250 is $36 a 10. But that's considerably more than. That's still pretty high price.
Remember when you paid what, like $150 or something for 7,000 or whatever it was?
Oh no, I paid $70 for 1,000.
Yeah, that's
$7 a 10. I've got about 1,500 caps in this safe.
And I remember thinking, hey, I ought to do that, but man, that's expensive.
Well, when I come out there, we can shoot some cap and balls. I'll bring some more because I think I brought about 400 caps out there last time.
Yeah, when you come out here, we're going to make you a 50-70 trapdoor believer.
I shot a 45-70 trapdoor.
Oh yeah, I know. 50-70 is the way to go.
It's still not as bad. It's still not superior to a Sharps.
For the applications and price, I would say it is, but not for the civilian market. That's just like saying that an AR-15 or an M4 is not superior to a Seiko bolt-action hunting rifle. Different applications.
Well, that's true.
Okay, by Landon C said, if I get a day off, I'm planning to go to Preston, Idaho to see the memorial for the Bear River Massacre. Well, that sounds interesting. Well, anyway, guys, as always.
For whatever reason, why am I thinking that the Bear River was in Montana?
Well,
Oh, I'm thinking of something different. Never mind. Thinking of a different thing.
Or bear, what is that? Bear paw, bear.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but different time. Or, well, different place.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we're ready to shut down. Are you ready to shut down?
Let's call it.
All right, guys. Trust in God. Keep your powder dry. Bye.